Good morning, everyone. It is Monday, September 19th. Going to run through the morning charts real quick here. Here we've got the US dollar index. It is the 10-minute chart, and I'll just zoom out a few more trading sessions here. You can see we've had a really nice run to the upside. We've gone into a multi-day correction. We had a nice tight bull flag forming, and then it started to get a little bit more volatile and choppy, and we had a nice breakdown. And if we were look at the UUP, which is the long US dollar ETF, we'd see that there was a great big gap here last week. And the fact that we were getting these lower highs and it was kind of just starting to go into a waterfall mode, that's a sign usually when you're coming into a bottom. If I just zoom out farther, you'll be able to see that we came right into a key pivot high here from back in July, which is right back in here. Came right into this kind of spike top, a little congestion here, and that's where we went to take a long position last week, and we've seen a nice rebound up into a more or less resistance here, which is through the majority of this noise. So it's having a little bit of a pause this morning, but we've had a really nice move in overnight trading in our favor so far for the US dollar index. Now, again, the rising dollar usually means lower stocks and lower commodities, and we're going to see the equities market, the S&P 500, gap down about 2% this morning. It's got a big down day. And I pointed out on Friday that it looked as though the market was topping out, and I was hoping that we get actually a gap up today, and it would be more or less a large pop and drop, which means you get a pop, a gap to the upside, and then right off the hop we would be looking to try and short it, and we get a strong sell-off throughout the day and a big reversal to the downside. Unfortunately, we're getting the gap to the downside this morning, and depending how the day plays out, we may actually get a nice fade or a drift back up to fill that gap, and at that point we may be looking for a shorting opportunity to go short the equities market. Now, if I just zoom out on the US dollar index to a different time frame, we'll go to the 60-minute, which will give us quite a bit of time we can look back on as long as it'll load here. For some reason, I'm not sure what's going on with eSignal the last week or so. It's been really sluggish to load data, which isn't good. Try a different time frame, go to 4-hour chart. Okay, well, here's a 4-hour chart. You can see we've had a nice move to the upside. We've had a nice bull flag. If I just draw on this real quick, you'll be able to see we've had two little bull flags, had a little pause here, and then we had another surge up, and we've had a really nice tight bull flag forming here, and then it had a failed rally, and it just kind of went into waterfall mode, sold off, came down into the last support zone. This pretty much flushed all the weak hands out. I think a lot of people were anticipating a nice move up out of this flag here. Instead, it rolled over and started to sell off, and everybody panicked out of the position. And once we got that big gap in the morning, we actually went long, anticipating, because we do have a nice impulse leg up. We've had a nice correction down to a support zone. The price pattern itself is showing that fear is in control, and when fear is in control and we're at support, we usually want to nibble and take a position, because you usually get a nice bounce, and that's where we are right now. So now we stand at the point where, are there legs behind this dollar move? Are we going to see it start to break out and start another big run, or is this just an oversold bounce, and is it just pausing here and may continue to work its way lower? So overall, the fact that we had a nice strong impulse wave and we saw fear in the market here, as you can see, everybody just piled out of the position, and that's usually a sign that we're probably going to see higher prices, because everybody's just been spooked out of the play, and we're in a short-term uptrend here. So let's look at commodities real quick. We've got the crude oil chart. This is the 4-hour chart, meaning you can see back about 2 months. Every candle here is 4 hours. Allows us to see some pretty big price patterns over a long period of time. Much more, for some reason eSignal's not backloading for me today. I'm gonna have to reboot it. But overall, the 4-hour chart allows us to go back multiple months and see intraday price action, which is very important compared to just looking at a daily chart, because there's a lot of intraday price action in here that actually shows a good pattern, but if you were to just show the daily chart, it's not quite as clear and you don't get as good setups. So the 4-hour chart is great. I almost consider it better than the daily chart. But overall, just looking at this chart, we are in a downtrend, and crude oil actually came down from a lot higher earlier, other than it's not letting me backfill this morning. but you can see we're riding the support trend line. We've got this resistance zone, this rising wedge. It's starting to look exhausted. We're down at a support zone. I wouldn't be surprised if we see another little bounce or something here, but overall this is a bearish pattern, and a breakdown should bring us pretty quickly down to the previous lows. That would be a nice target. It could actually go quite a bit lower than this, but I think the key level is going to be a break of this support zone. That is going to trigger several people to exit crude oil, and then there's going to be this pivot low here where people have stops set. If it breaks that pivot low, we'll probably see a nice flood of selling kick in, which will probably kick it right past this low, meaning we kind of go into a waterfall mode. All these stops get triggered and we'll see the price drop fairly quickly, probably down to about the 81 area, and that brings us into a pretty good congestion zone, which we saw back here, and it'll probably be a support for some type of bounce to the upside before it possibly continues lower. So that's what I'm looking for crude oil. We shorted it last week, somewhere right up here, and it's in our favor this morning nicely down at support. Now we're just kind of waiting for a breakdown to occur. Looking at the gold chart, again, this is the 4-hour chart. You can see the 4-hour chart allows us to zoom back several months to get the full picture. And if we zoom in a little bit, you can see we've had more or less a topping pattern form, which is surge to the upside, strong selling, surge to new highs, extremely strong selling, another move up. It actually just made a new high, just pierced the previous one, strong selling again, and now we're just kind of getting some more selling going on. It's like a saw blade. You'll actually see the blades kind of go this way, and eventually the blades flip angle from having a nice long run quick drop to it's actually going to have a short run and longer drop, and these blades kind of start to go the opposite direction, and that's when you're in a downtrend. So that's kind of where we are with gold. Overall, I don't really want to short gold, even though I'm not really that bullish on it right now. We do have a topping pattern. I'll just clear the slate here for a minute. If I just kind of zoom back a little bit, you can see we've got this big topping pattern. I think we're going to be trading in this range here all the way down to the 640 level, potentially for quite a few months. I do feel as though gold's going to continue to go a bit lower, but the fact that there's so many issues going on around the world, really we just need one big headline news or one incident and we're going to see everybody pile back into gold. So it's a really volatile play here to try and get into gold, in my opinion. But overall, I think we just need to see it trade sideways and build a very large base over a few months, and then from there I have a feeling it could continue to work its way quite a bit higher. But right now I'm neutral on it. I don't really want to get involved with gold. Looking at the silver chart, this is a 4-hour chart of silver. Silver's already doing what I'm anticipating gold to do. It made its big run already, made its low, and it's trading right in the middle of its range. And I have a feeling it's going to go sideways in this range, which is a huge range for quite a few months. And from there, I think once it builds stability and builds a base, it has potential to continue to run up to $75, $85 an ounce in the future. But I think that's going to take a while to play out, and we still could see these lows get tested again. Looking at the SP 500, this is the SPY ETF. This is the 60-minute chart, and if I just zoom out a little bit, you can see the overall it's a very similar pattern we're seeing in crude oil. We got the move down, we've got this pause, and more or less on Friday I pointed out we had a nice surge to the upside. Everybody was buying on Thursday and Friday into the market. We're trading up into a resistance zone, some previous highs. The fact that everybody was buying up here and we were entering a resistance level, the S&P 500 itself was trading at the 1200 level, which is a whole number, and that usually acts as resistance. The last time it pierced that a couple weeks ago, we saw the market go into free fall mode, and we actually shorted it somewhere right about here, and we caught a nice 4.5% move down. I was hoping we were going to get a gap right up to this resistance line or this previous high here this morning, but instead we're getting a gap down. We're going to see the market trade around here around 1950, 1980. It's bouncing around in there this morning, so we're going to get about a 2% move to the downside, and we'll see how that plays. The fact that we're getting this gap, if I just zoom in a little bit, we're going to get a gap right about 19, we'll say right about here. The market could open, depending, we still have another hour before the market opens, so anything can happen. But we're going to get a big gap down this morning. With any luck, we get some type of choppy price action, kind of just a fade up into say 11:30 this morning to fill this more or less gap, and then from there we could see selling pick up, and we could see the market sell off sharply into the close, and then we could get a gap the next day and see it continue to drop, similar to what we saw over here. You eventually see a big gap down, and now it did gap down the following day, but it came up and it filled this gap. You can see there's this gap here. It took two days, but it came up, filled that gap, sold off into the close, continued to sell off the following day, and I think we're getting something very similar to that. We're getting toppy, and if you just look at the simple volume price action in the bottom, once you see the market start to move down and you see some big volume spikes to the upside, you've got to anticipate that there is some big money starting to pick up, accumulate these prices, and you do get some type of bounce. And you can see down here, we started to see, even though this is halfway through the move, you start to see some pretty solid spikes in buying volume, and then from there on you get a continued run. Now what's got me is we came into previous highs, the 1200 mark on the SP 500, and over the past couple days I've been seeing these big selling volume spikes and some volatility, and that was telling me that we're starting to get oversold. The big money is starting to unload at these highs, so they unload a bunch. The market continues to slowly grind up on relatively light volume. The big guys step in, they sell a bunch more at a premium, and they're just letting the market run it up, and they just keep on scaling out as it goes higher and higher. Eventually this momentum is going to stall out, which it looks like it did this morning, because we've got a 2% gap down. With any luck, the novice investors, the average, the herd, is going to say, well, we got a nice pullback, I'm going to buy it, because everybody was bullish here last week. So we might get they might buy it up on relatively light volume this morning, and then the big guys are going to step in, and they're going to be like, all right, well, this is an exhaustion gap, and they're going to step in, and they're just going to unload and crush the markets, and we're going to see it come back down. So that's kind of what I'm seeing unfold going forward today and throughout this week. But of course, we'll have to see how the volume plays out today and take it one day at a time, because every day the market changes dramatically. Now, taking a quick look at the SP 500 futures. This is the SP 500 futures. So if I just kind of just simplify this a bit, again, it's a 24-hour chart, so you can see the full time frame. But this is Friday's price action. The high volume time is regular hours, 9:30 to 4 p.m. Eastern time. So this is regular New York trading hours. And you can see we got lots of volatility on Friday, and that was one of the signs telling me that the bulls and bears are starting to fight it out. And the fact that we had some nice buying into the close, I was hoping we were going to get a gap up this morning, and I'd be looking to actually short that gap up. But unfortunately, the US dollar had a big move up this morning, last night, and that's actually put a lot of pressure on equities. So we're getting a gap the other direction, and it looks like it's trying to put a little bit of bottom in this morning, and we're just trading, kind of forming maybe a little bit of a base down here. We'll see if the market can work its way up and actually drift up this morning. Oops, wrong. Drift its way up to fill this gap, because we got this gap here. At this time we got a gap all the way down to here. So if we get a nice drift up this morning, or even into the middle of Friday's price action, you got to expect there's going to be sellers stepping in, and we're going to see the market start to go into free fall mode for the rest of the day. Anyways, that's it for now, and I'll talk to you guys in a bit. Bye bye.